Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Lifestyle Mastery, and I'm excited to have Steven Schneider, who's the CEO of TriSEO. TriSEO helps 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses scale organic traffic and profits by turning boring blogs into organic traffic titans. Welcome to the show, Steven.
Thanks for having me, Rohit.
Awesome. So, you've been referred by Nathan, who's come on the podcast a few times, but really exciting to know, that you've been involved in SEO and content for quite a long time. But before we talk about, TriSEO, what got you interested in this crazy world of marketing, SEO, and content?
Yeah. So I actually, funny enough, fell into it accidentally in college way back when. I was on my finance MBA fast track and kind of just head down in the weeds with that sort of boring stuff. And then a friend of mine in college exposed me to SEO and content and kind of showed me that he had this like little side hustle on the side. And he was doing affiliate marketing through SEO back in college.
Nice.
Little did I know it wasn't a little side hustle. He was making, 15, 20 grand a month in
Wow.
college doing this sort of thing. So I quickly ignored everything that I could about finance and getting an MBA and quickly became a mentee underneath him and just kind of absorbed everything I could about SEO and how to rank websites and what affiliate marketing was and how to create good content. And before I knew it, we had a couple of starter sites and we merged with his partner. And we kind of went full steam ahead immediately after college. And at our peak, we had about 40 different blogs. We were doing about 300 to 400 articles per month across the entire board, and scaled into 7 figures. So it was a pretty fun ride, and I got to learn a lot about SEO and content. But it's pretty unique spin of events compared to where I was going.
Interesting. And you had mentioned that you were writing 400 articles. This was before AI, right? And did you hire a lot of writers to write it, or were you writing all these articles on your own?
Yeah, so we had a whole army of writers, and we had like a team of 30 just in-house that
Wow.
was not writers, just between doing research and uploads or content management as a whole. So we had a whole plethora of people kind of working around the clock on it.
Interesting. And so were you also buying those blogs and then selling it off? Because I know a couple of years back this is what was happening, but I don't know what's the status now.
Yeah. So we were, it was pretty much buying and flipping these blogs.
Mm,
And we would find websites that we either thought were undervalued or informational sites that didn't have any affiliate content on it and were purely like an evergreen site. And then we could just tack on what we knew. And we also, even at one point, were building sites from scratch and then selling them when they matured.
nice.
And then we also would do like mass email outreach, sort of like when you kind of get those postcards in the mail about like interested in selling your house sort of thing. We would do that for websites and just figure out what websites were kind of stagnant and didn't really have a lot of, like stat traffic, but we could at least pick them up for relatively cheap and then reboot them and kind of get them running again and then hit the ground running. So yeah, we had a whole strategy between acquisition, exits, and kind of seeing how we could buy and sell these online businesses.
Got it. Interesting. And what inspired you to start, TriSEO? What is it that you're trying to help SaaS businesses really help with?
Yeah. So with the last company, we had a couple Black Swan events back in like around COVID time, COVID being one
Yeah.
of them. And so I figured it was kind of a good way to step away from that and kind of take what I'd learned and see what was next. Something a little more secure, but allowed me to use my SEO knowledge to kind of stay in the space. And then through just a random turn of events, I met Nathan Hirsch and Connor Gillivan, 2 great entrepreneurs, a lot of SEO background. And just through talking and networking, we decided to create TrioSEO, which is a content marketing agency that allows us to use our skill sets from a business first standpoint, being that we've had a lot of business success and allow to help people who are in that same position and just create top notch quality SEO content and funnel in high intent traffic. So bottom of funnel traffic that actually is like ROI focused instead of traditional like top of funnel organic SEO traffic that doesn't really, equate to much.
Got it. Interesting. And I'm sure, a lot of people would have asked you this, but is AI going to kill SEO?
Sure hope not. No, I don't think so. I think that I think we're in a good spot. I think it'll be fun to kind of see how it changed. I always look at SEO as a tool. So even like nowadays, we're at about a year in and doing about 120 articles a month for all clients. And everything's 100% human written, 100% human edited. We use, AI as a tool, but I still think it's pretty early to see how AI will shape SEO fundamentally. So we don't, we're not willing to just roll the dice on brands and the integrity of all that sort of stuff. But it's definitely going to help a lot. I think it's already proven to be extremely helpful in optimizing systems and making things more efficient. So yeah, it's definitely going to change the world. I think it'll be fun to see how SEO kind of pivots as a result.
Nice, interesting. And I've heard a lot of reports about Perplexity, and you have ChatGPT, uh, which is taking the share of search from Google. In fact, there's one of the I mean, before the call we talked about, there's one of the podcasts where Gary V, who also runs his agency, talked about why he would focus more on social rather than on SEO, and I think he's trying to talk about Neil Patel's strategy, because he really deep dive into SEO. But do you think Google search is going away because of AI? A lot of these AI companies, I'm really impressed with Perplexity, and I'm using it more than I'm using Google. But do you think because of these AI tools, it will impact SEO going forward?
I think a portion of search is definitely going to change just as a result of how humans interact with AI and search through Google. For example, I think that it's really going to speed up a lot of the way that we get quick information. So,
Yeah.
like one of my favorite analogies is like, there's nothing worse than trying to look up a recipe and bake a cake, and now you have to read 2,000 words about grandma's pastime of cooking the cake, and it's like, no, 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 just give me the recipe. I don't care about anything else. And so I think in situations like that, AI is the perfect solution to that. Like it cuts out all the extra nonsense, gives people the information they need so they can move quicker. On the other hand, I think that if you're going through a more dense topic and you're maybe researching tools and you want to learn about the actual experience and the customer journey, so to speak, there's still going to be a time and a place for SEO content. And we're going to see that as a result of people not using AI for that reason.
Hmm.
So I think it really just depends on what the search intent is. And if it's supposed to be a quick answer, it should have a quick tool to complement that. But there's always going to be a use case for needing to read into something, do the due diligence, and kind of make a more educated decision before buying or moving forward with a service.
Got it. And do you think, I mean, you have YouTube, which has become like the second best search engine in the world. But do you think a lot of people will post on social media going forward with newer these social platforms like TikToks and Snapchat's going to come in the future?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what's bound to happen, I think that trends change and consumer preferences change. I mean, look at even TikTok. I think that anybody who ignores the fact that TikTok has become a great search engine
Yeah.
uh, for different generations is blind to what it's actually being used for. I mean, the fact that I can see how to tie a tie in under 7 seconds is way more effective than Googling an article or watching a 7-minute YouTube video. I think that there's still a disconnect on YouTube with people trying to optimize for ad revenue compared to optimizing for the answer. So I think it really just comes down to search intent and also the user's preferences at the end of the day. Like if I want to watch a video about, the top 10 best ski jackets of the year, I might want somebody who's actually tested those and goes and lays around in the snow, but I don't want to see a 7-second video of people just throwing on different jackets and going and running around. So um, I think that we'll just probably see a shift in how search is allocated regards to TikTok versus YouTube versus organic. And that will obviously align with the types of content as well.
Hmm. Interesting. And you made an interesting point about AI lets you condense a lot of content which is irrelevant. But like in the last year or so, I've you know gone into this rabbit hole of building like Twitter threads and writing, using Twitter a lot. I'm not doing a great job out of it, but I'm also writing like really long form articles like 2,000, 3,000 words. what do you think is, where is the content going? Would people prefer, 200 words articles, or would they prefer 2000 or 3000 word articles? What is better? And, how should somebody decide what should be their content strategy like?
We always base the length of our content depending on the topic itself. So
Mm.
if something is like, say it's the top 10 best SEO tools of 2024,
Yeah.
there's a chance that that's probably going to be a 2 to 3,000 word article. But if it's something about like, I don't know, I'm just throwing something out there, like how to, like what is the benefit of SEO? Like that's probably going to be a much shorter article.
Yeah.
So the search intent has to align with that, and Google knows that too. So even if you rank, top 10, the article could still be 700 words. It really depends on the topic and what competitors are doing and how people are reacting and engaging with it. So I think it really depends at the end of the day. But when it comes to social, I think that is a much more concise, bite-sized part of information. People have the attention span of a goldfish on social media, so you really have to keep that in mind
Yeah.
and just be realistic, and that sort of thing. But I do see the benefits of going into both sides,
Mm.
especially as you kind of explore personal branding, and then you also look at the SEO benefit of growing a brand and growing the authority behind your website. I mean, there's definitely a time and a place for both. It just depends on where your customers live and
Yeah.
how you kind of see a longer time horizon when you look at the 5 or 10 year plus game plan for your business.
Mm. Interesting. And you had mentioned like you use AI as a tool, but can you still figure out, who's using AI in their writing? Is it still, do you have software, or are you able to judge, who's writing using AI in their writing?
Yes, I wish you can tell bad content, and that's the
Right.
problem. Is that it's very good at deciphering because like it just uses jargon. It being AI uses jargon that we don't use. Like it'll be like, in the digital landscape of SEO, and it's like
That's
no one's
AI.
saying that. No.
Yeah.
But good AI and good, ChatGPT bots can start to adopt a casual tone, and with enough training where you feed it back real content that was human written, it can start to understand that. And so it is hard to kind of see upper level content and try to decipher that. And even the AI generators that are out, they don't know the difference. They're taking their best guess. Even Google, for example, who's we consider the best out there, has
Mm.
clearly said that they don't even know. So everyone's kind of taking their guess at what is good versus bad when it comes to quality and what is AI. And for that reason is kind of why we don't dabble in AI content yet. It's just because it's too unpredictable. And for that reason, we don't want to jeopardize an entire strategy or say 12 months of work just to get a little edge. So yeah, I wish it was easier, but it's just not there yet.
Interesting. And especially, when like you help a lot of B2B SaaS companies and AI companies, but should should somebody focus on volume, like quantity of articles, or should they focus on quality of articles and keep it really one or two really good articles, or should they focus on just writing a lot of content? Like you have a lot of um, strategy in writing a lot of content. Like you mentioned, you write 120 odd articles a month, so you've done volume, but how would somebody who's just starting out, what advice would you give to them?
Should always be quality first.
Mm.
If you're focused on quantity, and you don't have quality locked in yet,
Mm.
you're pretty much just hurting yourself, because if you publish 10 articles that are say C minus grade,
Yeah.
when you could have just posted 2 that are A plus, it's not going to compete. You would rather have 2 that are ranking number 1 or number 2 compared to 10 that are all ranking 12th and have no traffic. So I think until you have your systems down, until you have your process down, it should really just be focus on what works and focus on quality, and then slowly start to integrate from there. When it comes to us doing 120 articles a month, we didn't do that overnight. So, we have a lot of systems in place, a lot of checks and balances in place, and a really strong team of writers that allow us to kind of move the needle on that front.
Mm. Interesting. And what do you think are the most common misconceptions about SEO that you frequently encounter?
The biggest one has to be that it just doesn't work. I think
Yeah.
that people are very impatient, and I think that they try to take a stab at SEO and want to see the benefits, because those who do see the benefits of SEO, can't stop talking about it, and they love SEO and all this sort of stuff. But it's a pretty slow crawl to get to the top of the hill. And so if you're looking at your strategy and saying, it's going to take you 9 to 12 months to see growth, most people are so turned off by that because they need their P&L to be justified in order to continue doing it for 2 or 3 months. And so those who can delay gratification and can endure the patience that it takes to see the success are able to reap the benefits and kind of, surpass that. But it's a hard game. It takes a lot of patience, but patience pays.
Yeah, and something I didn't talk about, but when I worked in a SaaS company, we focused on SEO because we knew that when it comes to SaaS companies, content can be this long term play. But we were told that it takes 6 months for that content to really build out and start performing. But when do you think a SaaS company should start building on the content and SEO game? Is it before they have hit $1 million in revenue, or they want to get in? What strategy would you give to those startups who would want to, see a growth of about 1 million visits a month or a year?
A million a month is pretty crazy. So, I mean, if you can do that in under a year, let me know how and let me know what the magic sauce is. But I always say that, better is always, or sooner is always better, because if you wait 6 months or you wait a year, you're going to look back and say, dang it, I wish I would have started then.
Yeah.
The difference being, and kind of where I would say it depends, which is a pretty classic SEO quote, is that you want your domain authority or your site's strength able to compete before you start deploying content, or at least have a strategy in mind to build your authority through backlinks while also creating content. So, like, for example, we did an audit on a SaaS startup last week, and we actually recommended that they invest more time and resources into building backlinks and building their domain authority before they work with us, because it was a highly competitive space. It's like the finance space. And so it's like, you spending money on content is going to be a lot longer game for you at this stage. So it's actually better to allocate resources toward, networking and link building and podcasting and all the things that actually build your domain authority. And then content is that much easier. But kind of goes back, if you choose incorrect from the start, you're going to feel like it doesn't work and you're going to be turned off of the process. And then SEO is a scam that no one wants to ever choose to, engage with ever again. So I think just being realistic and kind of where you stand relative to your competitors and seeing what is the best use of my time in the short run so that I can be successful over the long run. And then from there on out, it's a much easier game to see it through.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And a lot of commercial and revenue leaders are more interested in converting those leads and getting that revenue in the pipeline. So how do you ensure that the content that you create not only ranks, but also, converts viewers into customers?
Great question. So yeah, we always focus on bottom of the funnel, high intent topics first. And these are going to be ones that would, likely come with those ROI metrics, because we're business owners too at the end of the day. We understand that SEO has to make money in order for it to be viable for the business. And so we really kind of try to see what is the most important from a search intent perspective, and where are the customers in that journey, and how can we position those topics on the site. Sometimes it's going after new content. Other times the site might already have a landing page or service page. And in that case, we just want to update that content and optimize it. So it really depends on where the site currently is and where they fall into the existing landscape relative to their competitors. And then from there on out, we just create a 90-day sprint, go after the most high intent topics first, try to bake in some quick wins. And then from there on out, it's pretty much smooth sailing and try to, work bottom of the funnel, top up. So that's what we found to be successful for our own companies. And now we can kind of like help clients see it through too.
Hmm. Interesting. You mentioned about bottom of the funnel content. Does that mean, or is it more about um, retaining those customers in that pipeline? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you talk more about the bottom of the funnel content for SaaS and B2B startups?
Yeah. So in some cases, it might be like a competitor article,
Okay.
like if it's like competitor reviews or competitor alternatives. And then in that case, you would So many companies hate talking about their competitors on their site, but it's actually one of the best opportunities that they can do is to create an article about their competitor and then showcase themselves as an alternative to that. So that content works pretty well. Versus articles work really well if it's like product A versus product B or brand A versus brand B, and then inserting yourself as a sub alternative relative to those work really well too. And then just also like how to choose topics, like how to choose an SEO agency. For us, that's extremely bottom of funnel. So if we have that on our site, we would explain that process and then pitch ourselves. So it really just depends on putting yourself into that customer's point of view and seeing how would I engage with this content and what is my next step beyond reading this topic.
Got it. And what's your approach when it comes to, keyword research and, and content strategy, which is, different from other traditional methods?
So we look at competitors first. It's really easy to steal a lot of their keywords and kind of do it better than they are currently doing. And we'll just kind of do, a top 10 analysis on either a gap analysis if the site has some content or just straight up from the scratch strategy. Take a look at their keywords, where they fall in the funnel segments. And then from there on out, we take a look at the like hub and spoke approach, which means we're siloing content. We're looking at different content categories specifically. And then we're trying to figure out what subtopics or, little areas we can kind of do to strengthen the subsets of content. And then we take a look at things like the volume or the search metrics per month. We take a look at the keyword difficulty and if there's a chance that the site can rank for it. So we do a lot of like data analysis, and then it's also a lot of like psychological analysis to see where the search intent is, where is the buyer in this journey. So kind of a mix between data and art at the same time is kind of how I like to look at it. That's what kind of makes my job fun, is I get to think about it from all different perspectives and then create a strategy like a big puzzle and see it through.
Got it. And are there any websites which helps you, compare in the keyword strategies and look? I know Facebook allows you to look into competitors' ads, but when it comes to SEO, are there, specific websites which your team looks at so that, listeners can also have a look at it?
Yeah. Ahrefs is a big one. That's what we use. SEMrush is big. Moz is big. There's a bunch of third-party tools that allow you to kind of get an estimate of things, but and allow you to peek at any site, look at their backlinks, look at their keywords, look at their rankings. You can kind of get a lot of information pretty quickly if you have the right tool.
Does analytics and progress monitoring play in your content strategy, and how should somebody look at to improve their outcomes? I mean, I look at tweets which are doing well, but I do it not in a very systematic way. But somebody who's like running $1 million SaaS business, how should they look into analytics and see what content is really working out?
Yeah, the first thing is always just picking out what are your high intent keywords, what are the keywords that you should be ranking top 5 or top 10 for, and then what is the content on that page and how your rankings align to those goals. So for example, if it's, SaaS SEO agency is one of our top keywords and we want to be ranking for that, we take a look at how do we get more backlinks to that page? Does the content speak to the customer? Does it cover all of the questions and FAQs that they might have? Is it optimized? And then when it looks to the actual analytics of it, we look at the rankings of it. We look at the secondary keywords and what their rankings are. We look at the impressions, the clicks, the click-through rate, kind of all of the standard metrics that are just regular metrics across the whole of marketing. And just kind of put more of an SEO focus on it and make sure that it's specific to the content and the page itself.
Got it. And how do you integrate, CRO and UX suggestions into your SEO content strategy?
Yeah, CRO and UX is huge, especially with user experience and the fact that no one wants to visit a website that looks like it was built in 1997. So we do a free SEO or CRO and UX audit with every client, and just kind of look at any quick wins design wise. The big things are just adhering to Google's EAT, which is EEAT, the experience, the expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness of the page, and ensuring that as a reader, are you met with the same feelings that give you the authenticity of the brand. If there's anything that might seem like a turnoff or just doesn't feel like it flows or might be clunky, we try to just fix that up so that it feels just cohesive from the start. the user doesn't, have like a sketchy vibe attached to anything they're visiting.
Hmm. Interesting. And you also work like a fractional SEO partner for your clients. And we have a couple of founders obviously who are looking to scale up. What's a fractional thing that you do? How long is usually the tenure for? And is it like a forever thing, or does the SEO partner need to be there for a couple of months, and then it's a one-off thing?
Yeah, so all of our content strategies have a 3-month minimum. We work in 90-day sprints. And so what that allows us to do is at least have enough time under our belt to see through enough strategy. And what that does is like we try to get some growth, maybe a little bit of some movement within the first 60 days. It's not going to be massive wins just because SEO takes a long time, but
Yeah.
as a fractional SEO partner, we're pretty much their go-to in terms of questions they can ask or the content that they've already approved, and we're just seeing it through. It's a pretty hands-off, experience for them, and just allowing them to trust what we do so that they can focus on the other parts of their business. Like we don't hold a lot of meetings with clients. We try to just like minimize it to emails. Um, we know that both sides are busy, and hopping on more calls just to talk through things that could be emails or Slack messages. It's like, no, everyone's busy. Like you do your thing, you grow your stuff, we'll grow ours, and then we meet every 90 days to make sure that we're on the right track, and then just kind of reassess from there. So we just have a lot of trust and confidence in what we're doing, and trust that the CEOs or the founders can do their part too. And if everyone's doing their job, then it usually comes together as a pretty cohesive team. And that's pretty much what we look for in a fractional SEO partner, as if we're offering that to a startup or a SaaS partner.
Got it. And what are the sort of metrics that you look at, especially in the 90-day sprint? Uh, and what metrics should somebody who's also building like a SEO and content play should look at? Because it's really interesting to build out a lot of content, but when it comes to content, you can look at how many shares, how many people are sharing it, or how many people are viewing it. But when a revenue converting into a revenue or converting into a customer, he gets frustrated. But what are the sort of metrics would you suggest a revenue leader who might be listening to this call think about, so that he could build into his strategy in Q3 or Q4?
The big things are really just we try to suggest is nurture sequences.
Mm,
It's pretty hard for people to, like, visitors of content, to land on a piece of content and immediately sign up for a service or buy something within seconds unless
yeah.
it's a product focused piece of content. And so what we actually try and pivot to is, if a company has a newsletter, for example, newsletters are like one of the best ways to work customers into their nurture sequence and give them more information so that they feel more comfortable. And so from that perspective, like one of the top KPIs could be how many new signups is your content getting for your newsletter. And then once that is integrated into your content, you can then pretty much use and funnel the traffic over, and then you have better data within your newsletter. So I think one of the big common misconceptions also is that SEO has a direct correlation per page to dollars, which is not always true. It's more about how can I get these customers into a mindset shift that allows me to nurture them over time and then eventually convert them to paying customers. And then
Mm.
over time, as you warm up customers to nurture sequences and build them into your brand, you'll actually increase the LTV of that customer over time. So I just think there's a lot of benefits to playing the long game and making sure that those customers are fully bought into the product or service before you just try and convert them, and then maybe they've turned off and they churn. So um, that's kind of how I look at what is important from a revenue standpoint. And um, obviously there's a lot of systems involved, but it's kind of the fun part too, is getting people worked into those setups.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And what advice would you give to someone who's looking to scale their business using SEO, but not relying on social media or paid advertising?
Yeah, the key things are just making sure that your site feels good and
Yep.
operates cleanly. Like, is it fast? Does it load well? Is it mobile optimized? Is it easy to navigate? Do you have a footer set up? Is your nav bar, like all the kind of like basics, I would say. Most things in SEO, there's no magic trick. There's no secret sauce. It's really just how well can you do the basics longer than your competitor, and continue to double down on those and update them. The other thing too is just doing content updates in general. Most people think that new content is always the most attractive thing, when really your content should be updated at least once a year, just to kind of make sure it's fresh from Google's perspective. So always looking forward, but constantly looking back and seeing how can we take what we have and improve it and optimize it and squeeze a little bit more out of it, while also looking into the future. So it's definitely a two-way street on that side.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I have close to around 700 articles, so I need somebody who can help me refresh all those articles from back. But when you talk about growth, what do people misunderstand most about growth, especially with such an important role when it comes to tech startups, where the growth guy is not only focusing on SEO, content, ads, but also social, offline marketing, advertising, I don't know whatnot. But what is it that people should know most about growth, and people are doing growth in tech startups?
My favorite thing is that SEO compounds, and I think that that's another kind of thing that you really don't understand unless you've been in the game. And
Mm,
so when people think about keywords in SEO, which is usually like the primary keyword you're going after, they think it's like a one-to-one relationship with the page or the blog that you're writing about. So, if I'm looking at like the benefits of SEO as my primary topic, there actually might be, say, 100 keywords on that page, and those all act as doors to your website. So the more content you have, the more keywords you start to build into your website. And you might have 10 topics, but those 10 topics could actually have 5,000 keywords in them over time. So it's really about going after that hockey stick growth, and it might feel like it's a really slow crawl. And then once things catch up, you kind of have this explosive growth and things kickstart, and you really start to see the benefits of SEO. And so it comes back to being patient and just doing it correctly. And then over time, you kind of see, you look back and you're like, wow, the last year has been immensely valuable, because now we have all this content. And the best part about it is, unlike social media, you own the content. It's yours. It's real estate
yeah.
for your brand. So yeah, that's the biggest thing I think I look at when it comes to growth.
Mm. And what do you think is the right time to hire you, or should you outsource it to company like TriSEO?
I think that it's important to think about like the benefits of outsourcing versus in-house. And we always say that it's easier to outsource, and obviously we're biased, but the real big trade-off is you're able to do it faster and more efficiently at a cheaper cost than if you brought it in-house. So, like US wise, if you had an in-house SEO person, you could be looking at somewhere like 70 to 80 grand a year plus benefits and all this sort of stuff. But if you're outsourcing it to us for content, it could be somewhere in the ballpark of $36,000 per year. And we are doing it faster. We've worked you into our systems. And now it's an out of sight, out of mind thing that we're doing our part and you're doing yours. So I think that if you have the resources and the dedication to your company and you're willing to invest in SEO, doing it from the start is always going to be way more profitable and a much wiser decision. It really just comes down to how you look at the kind of roadmap ahead and where you think that that fits into your budgeting or your goals and your KPIs and your OKRs, because I always like to say that no one gets into business thinking it's going to be an overnight success. And if that's the case, you should definitely look at your business and your strategy as a long-term growth horizon as well.
Mm. Interesting, Stephen. You mentioned that you can do it for $3,600 a year, is it? Or did you say it's 36
36,000. So if you're doing it,
36,000?
yeah, yeah. So our
So,
minimum is 3,000. So if you could look at it like that way,
oh,
you
okay,
know,
okay,
yeah.
got it. Interesting. Uh, and how many clients does one SEO manager handle? Because is it possible for one manager to handle multiple clients, or do you focus on one specific niche so that like um, you know HR tech benefits, you like become a master in that? Or are you sector and stage and geography agnostic, where you can take clients from any industry, any market, any geography?
Yeah, so we don't really like have any like cutoffs in terms of like we'll take, anyone as long as the SEO is there for, the benefit of it.
Yeah.
We've turned down a lot of clients just because we feel like it's not a good fit for them at this time, and we want to be fully transparent with them. The more difficult aspects, I would say, is if a SaaS product is, say, super technical, and we might have to hire a expert writer compared to more of a generalist writer who's maybe can just learn it on the fly. So it really depends on the density of the topic and just the overall opportunity. But no, I mean, our managers, right now we have about 15 clients, and we have a pretty good grasp on their niches and understanding on their goals, and it's pretty in depth in terms of the understanding and the breadth of each client. So yeah, it really just depends on what the opportunity looks like from their side.
Interesting. And do you think SEO or content is more art or science?
Good question. I'd say it's definitely more science, but I think the craft of making good content is maybe a little bit more on the art side, because so what I mean by that is everyone has the same access to keywords at the end of the day. Like there's no one's gatekeeping certain keywords. So how you choose to find keywords and the keywords you choose to go after is more of like a data perspective based on experience. So maybe that is more art, but when it comes to creating content, that's 100% going to be the creative aspect of like the reader psychology and where the sections are placed and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a fun question. I've never really thought about it, but definitely it's a good balance between art and science, I would say, or art. Yeah.
Got it. Interesting. And I actually want to do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
Favorite business book is going to be The Value of SEO by Andrew Holland. I just read it, and it's actually a collection of most of his LinkedIn posts about SEO. So they're really kind of like quick, concise lessons about SEO. And I'm just a big SEO nerd, so I eat that stuff up.
Got it. We'll put that in show notes. And if you could go back in time when you started TriSEO, what is the one thing you would have focused on or done anything differently?
I would have done more podcasts sooner. I'm just starting to kind of branch out and do a lot of podcasts, and I don't have enough positive things to say about them from a content perspective, from a backlink perspective. It's a win-win all around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And do you have any favorite online tools, example, Gmail, Slack, Zoom?
Airtable, actually, I would say that's what we use for all of our content management. Slack is definitely next in the line, but Airtable is great. It's like a Notion kind of similar setup, but yeah.
Awesome. We'll put that in show notes. And Steven, what's the best way people can reach out to you and know more about TriSEO?
Yeah, you can. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Yeah, I post daily on there. Look me up, Steven Schneider. You can also find us TrioSEO, TrioSEO.com. And yeah, always willing to meet people and connect, and look forward to hopefully meet some of you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll put that in the show notes. Steven, thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us. I really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Thanks, Rohit.